News. Wherever the big news story is happening, we're geared up to break it. TVC News, first with breaking news.
For God so long.
Hello and thank you for joining us on Journalists Hangout on Sunday. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Today on the program, Air Marshal Amao laments that scarcity of aviation fuel may stall Nigerian Air Force operations. As report says, Zamfara bandits made 3 billion naira ransom from 3,672 victims in 8 years. House of Representatives begins fuel subsidy probe, subpoenas Finance Minister. As Controller General of Customs faults NNPC over 60 million litres of fuel consumption figure. UNESCO says Nigeria now has 20 million out-of-school children. And later on the show, APC, PDP and other presidential candidates set to feature in National Unity Polo tournament in Kebbi, Nasarawa State. In the studio today, I will be hanging out with Adewale Adeoye and Chris Kendi Nwando. Welcome to the program, gentlemen. Mr. Adewale, welcome to the studio. Mr. Chris, good to have you in the studio.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice to hear you.
Thank you. While Babajide Kolade Otitoju joins us from Abuja. Journalist Hangout. Thank you for staying with us. Now let's begin on a celebration mood by felicitating with an ardent fan of Journalist Hangout, Reverend Dr. E.O. Folari, who clocks 75. We join numerous family members, admirers and well-wishers to wish Reverend Folari a happy 75th birthday. He is the father of TVC's Director of Programs, Abimbola Olukunle Folari. And from here, we say happy birthday to you, Grandpa, and thank you for being a big fan of Journalist Hangouts. Gentlemen, is an ardent fan of the show. Your birthday wishes for him.
Yes, congratulations, sir. In a country where when you are even 40, 50, a lot happens. Life expectancy in Nigeria has been very, very low of recent. So for him to be clocking 75, as also we thank God for his life, and may he continue to live bountifully in all that he does, in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Yeah, I wish Baba good luck. Baba looks very young compared with his age.
You can say that again.
And I think anybody who's over 45 years has already passed the life expectancy of men, you know, of Nigerian men. So, and I think we should thank him for producing one of the finest journalists in this country. Very humble man, very honest and dedicated. And I think he must have inherited that from his father. So I say congratulations, Baba.
All right, once again, from the crew of Journalist Hangout, happy birthday to you, sir. All right, now let's move on. Another music star has been caught in another web of controversy. This time, Nigerian rapper Panshak Zamani, popularly known as Ice Prince Zamani, has been remanded in Ikoyi Correctional Center. According to the spokesperson of Lagos Police Command, Benjamin Hudaye, the artist was arraigned at a magistrate's court in Ajah over 3 counts charge of assault, obstruction and abduction of a police officer. Gentlemen, when the story came out, there were a lot of mixed reactions. You cannot even fault Nigerians for having an opinion over this. But it's important that we talk about this because this is crucial for everyone involved to take something away from it. We've not heard from the singer, but of course, Section 10 of the FRS Establishment Act makes it mandatory that everyone should have a plate number boldly displayed on the vehicle. So, of course, nobody is above the law.
Yeah. It's quite unfortunate, taking it from 2 angles. One, I'm the coordinator of the Celebrity Special Marshals in Nigeria. So I know what we're talking about. And for an artist, a popular artist for that matter, in these days of insecurity, to be driving a vehicle without a plate number, that in itself is a problem. Suspicion, people will be suspecting you. The security agencies were suspecting and the rest of them. He was stopped, according to what we heard. And he was asked why he didn't have it. He gave reasons. Then those within the checkpoints, the policemen said, okay, let's take you to the police station where you explain yourselves and identify yourself and give reasons why you are driving a vehicle. At that order, it was about 3 a.m. So, and he agreed, only for him to halfway threaten to throw the policeman into the lagoon and all blah, 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 blah. And it was, but it's the way of artists generally. For close to about 7-8 years, I was the artist and promotions manager of Sony Music in Nigeria, and I have close to about 20 artists that I was supervising and superintending over. And artists behave irrationally, but that does not make it normal. And this kind of a thing, I expect that as an artist, you are an ambassador, because people look forward to you, people look up to you for certain behavior. The fact that the police even gave you the opportunity to be able to take you to the station is enough. Some will not even give you that. If as far as it's in the night, there are instances where you'll be sure that the police, some other countries, the police will just open fire because they don't know who the person is. In these days of terrorism, kidnapping, and the rest of them, so I expected someone like Ice Prince to have behaved himself in a manner that portrays him as an artist. Somebody I never met him before. I love his music. Every one of us like the music. But certain behavior is expected of individuals, whether you're a celebrity or not. How he could have been driving without a vehicle without a plate number is what I don't understand. Is it that the vehicle doesn't have a plate number, or he purposely removed the plate number in the night for whatever reason? But good enough, the police did the right thing, because by the law, within 24-48 hours, you're supposed to be charged to court, and that was what they did, and it has been held, and I believe by Monday, he was granted bail. By Monday, I'm sure he'll be able to perfect his bail, then we take it off from there.
All right, Mr. Adewale, while you tell us your reactions about that, many of us were asked, how did the policeman get into Ice Prince's car?
Yeah, we don't have the full picture of what actually happened. In other countries, we will have been able to see the video footage. You know, but you know that in Nigeria, CCTV is rare on our highways. And that's why it's important for establishing justice, what actually happened. If we had seen the video footage, we'll have been able to know, you know, all that took place. But I think that was a very odd hour, 3 a.m. And for policemen to be on the street tells you a lot of people are making sacrifices for your security and for my security, while many of us are asleep down the street there trying to look for criminals, you know, left their families and children at home. So we need to appreciate the sacrifice they are making. And I think that if we are driving without plate number, it is absolutely wrong, because especially given the context of insecurity in the country, where there are threats of terrorism and all sort of things. So for reports that you know, kidnap the policeman and even threaten to throw the policeman into the lagoon, I think it's quite unfair. I know that artists are quite, some of them are rash, but they're also very decent artists. I know some artists that would not have behaved that way, because the whole essence of music is for you to, be a kind of inspiration, especially somebody who's just 38 years old. A lot of young people are looking towards you as their role model. So I think you should realize that there is nobody that's above the law, no matter your position. You have to respect the constitution of the country. And I think I know what is saying, where this case will be swept under the carpet. If he's going to get some tickets or, you know, fines, the police must ensure that justice is done.
All right, gentlemen, we now have BKO joining us from Abuja. Hello, BKO. Are you there? All right. Okay, before you join us, let's quickly move on. All right. Thank God you're here, Mr. Chris. Most celebrities are yet to learn to compose themselves properly in public. How do you think you can make them imbibe all of this culture?
Yes. As I said earlier on, some of them, not all, at times behave in a rational manner. Not only at creative people in the creative industry. Sometimes they behave in a way and manner that they see themselves as celebrities who must be respected, who must be done, and rest of them. But for me, they should also imbibe some level of conscience. As I said earlier on, they're ambassadors. People look up to them. They have a very huge fan base. This is not the first time. There have been so many of them of recent behaving in a way. Naira Marley is in court because of some of the behavior. You remember Naira Marley, that the case is still in court. And there has been so many others. Recently, a Nollywood actor was sentenced for alleged rape. It's no longer alleged because he was sentenced as well. So, and there have been such. If it's another person, it wouldn't make news. Do you know how many people police arrest every night for such behaviors? But because they see you as an ambassador, they see you as somebody that will be respected. They see you as an influencer, as you will be. So, certain level of respect is given you. And for the artists, we're asking the question: how come that a policeman find himself in the vehicle of him? How else will he arrest? Because one is to keep him there until morning. It's for him to be detained with the police till morning until you fully identify you. The fact that you say you're an artist or you're a social person doesn't mean that you have to be able to identify yourself. One, and what he engages is more like it could be a civil case, but it's criminal in nature. So he must be investigated to, first of all, to find out whether even the vehicle that he's driving, whether it was not stolen, whether it belongs to him, and the reason why. So I think the police did the right thing, but some of these our artists.
All right, BK, welcome to the program. Now let's have your reactions concerning this this particular issue. And how would you advise Nigerian celebrities to properly comport themselves rather in public? So would you not have a continuous embarrassment of this nature?
I must say I'm disappointed in Ice Prince. He's one of the artists from northern Nigeria that I had tremendous respect for, because it's not just an artist, he's also an intellectual. We've interviewed him before, he's very deep. And he was holding the flag of northern Nigeria proudly. So I expected the level of behavior that was that would be edifying from him, especially for someone who rose to become the vice president of Chocolate City, you know, before he eventually left that position. So to beat up a policeman, abduct him, and even threaten to throw him inside the river, it's not the kind of conduct that you expect from a role model. I think that our artists have disciplinary issues. You saw what happened to Kiss Daniel in Tanzania when he refused to honor his obligation to play at a concert. And you've seen Naira Marley, who is on record to be the only artist across the world who entertained people during the global lockdown. All over the world, concerts were frozen. Well, it took an irresponsible Nigerian artist to go and do a concert in Abuja, for which he was put on trial and convicted by the mobile court. He still has other issues related to advance fee fraud and use of marijuana on his neck. We also saw his lawyer convicted the other day. So artists will realize that they are being watched and that they are role models. So when they openly smoke cannabis in public, when they sing about sex all the time, and when they disrespect law enforcement agents and even threaten law enforcement agents with death, people are watching them, and young people are likely to imbibe such inglorious conduct on their part. So I'm really ashamed of Ice Prince, and I hope that his trial will enable him reflect over his irresponsible conduct, and other artists will learn from that. I hear that the police recorded the scene, they recorded what happened. That could certainly earn him conviction. I hope that this will be a lesson for others. We abuse the police, we disrespect the police all the time, but it is not right. Somebody spit into the face of a policeman the other day. Now we have a prominent Nigerian artist beating up a policeman, abducting a policeman, and threatening to drown him in a river. It's really shameful.
Thank you, BQ. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Awareness, treatment, and management remain the three critical approaches to tackling cancer and one of the main public health burdens in Nigeria. The wife of the governor of Kebbi State, Zainab Shinkafi Bagudu, a medical doctor, is involved in all three, and this is earning her national and global recognition after she was shortlisted for the president's position of the Union for International Cancer Control for the 2022-2024 term. Dr. Shinkafi Bagudu has received another honor. The African Institute of Public Health Professionals has inducted her as a fellow owing to her efforts on cancer awareness and treatment in Nigeria. Before we start our discussion, let's share this story with you.
I've been reading about the performances of different states in healthcare delivery all over Nigeria. And I want to tell you that Kebbi State is rated very, very high. And I know it's with the support of the First Lady. On behalf of all of us from the Institute and our member in Kebbi State, we appreciate your good work.
Hi.
Pledge to conduct myself professionally with truth, accuracy, fairness, and responsibility to the public. To foster the highest standard of professional competence. Among those whom I am responsible.
Well, I would like to thank the Institute for the honor bestowed on us. This is not an individual honor. It's an honor that has been given to us as a people in Kebbi State. It's an honor, and I really, really appreciate the efforts that you made to come to Kebbi. And I humbly accept this award as a mark of our determination to improve the health of our people in Kebbi State. I will be flogged if I leave this podium without talking about cancer control and, in fact, the role that public health can play. The need to bring public health, cancer control to the public health space and the community. The main issue around cancer is the lack of awareness and not knowing what to do about it. When our people get cancer, their first port of call, they don't even know the signs, and usually their first port of call is to the traditional or religious healers. And this complicates the matters, increases the staging of the disease, and mostly leads to death.
Good one there, and highly commendable. A report has it that she has, there's an increase in immunization coverage from 17% in 2015 to 85% in 2022, courtesy of her.
I think this goes to the point that some people have been making, that the role of the First Lady is not just to, does not begin at education and ends there. If given the opportunity, First Ladies can make great impact, you know, in this country. Imagine she's from a conservative state, you know, but if she had been kept behind the doors, you know, Nigerians would have been robbed of this contribution that she's making to humanity. So I think I really commend her. You know, in Nigeria, cancer is a very major problem, you know, with about 72,000 deaths annually. So for her to be going out there, reaching out to the people, I think it's quite commendable. So it shows that First Ladies, you know, there are a lot of contributions they can make to back up the work their husband, you know, are doing. So I really commend her for that initiative.
All right, Mr. Chris.
Yes, sincerely, I was surprised. Sincerely, I was surprised that we had someone of this nature as a first lady of Kebbi State. I never knew, and I mean media, but it is a honor well deserved. And what struck me most in what she said is the area of education. She said awareness is part of the problem that people have about cancer. Whenever you have issue of cancer, the first place that we go to is other traditional people or our pastors and the imams, and that shouldn't be the case. And she makes a very valid statement there. And within the past few hours, I've taken time to go through her profile and some of the she has done wonderfully well. And to me, it is a wake-up call to other people and other first ladies who just think that just going to be commissioning and dashing Okada and the keke. Exactly, just to be, that is not. Because in this country we have instances where we have wives of governors went as far as Supreme Court. We've had wife of president became Chief Justice of Nigeria. We've had several women in that way. And it takes me back to the days of Miriam Babangida. And you remember her initiative in those days, Better Life for Rural Women. She didn't just sit down. And so even the wife of one of the former head of states built a hospital in Abuja that today is being used by the public. So you could see for it that we can utilize these women better than some of our leaders are doing. So gone are the days where you just think a first lady is a first lady just to come and sit down and marking time and the rest of them.
All right.
Very, very wonderful. Congratulations to her.
All right, BKO, this is obviously a challenge to other first ladies and of course to Nigerians as a whole. How do you think Nigerians then can take a cue from this to make the society better?
But I think there is significance that we have someone like the First Lady of Kebbi State. I've been monitoring her for some time, and we brought her on this program sometime last year. And it was in recognition of our contributions to defeating cancer in our country. She's been pushing hard for all stakeholders to see cancer as a public health emergency in our country. You can imagine prostate cancer killing more than 34,000 Nigerian men every year. If we would do a lot more advocacy, if we would dedicate our time to generating awareness and encouraging our people to report quickly when they suspect that they have this ailment, we will be able to save many lives. But a situation in which people keep quiet and allow cancer to spread until it becomes inevitable that it will take their lives is not what we want to see. She is a pediatrician by nature, by training, and she's doing her best, influencing the decisions being made, the policies being made to improve public health in Kebbi State. It is recorded against her name that in the past, in 2015, Kebbi State had 17% immunization rates. But today, that rate has gone up to more than 80%. That is really, really tremendous, and it has really shown us that this is a woman that knows her onions and is determined to achieve her aims in the health sector. So I give kudos to her, and I want to encourage her to continue, even when her husband leaves office, to continue her work against cancer. She organizes the cancer awareness work every year in our country, in Abuja. People join the work. She's been doing her best, just to ensure that more lives are saved through early detection of cancer. And now, cancer is not a death sentence. We've seen people who survived it due to early detection. The wife of the governor of Ondo State is a cancer survivor. So there is a lot that our people need to know, and there's a lot that government needs to do to help save more lives that ordinarily would have been lost to cancer every year. So congratulations to Mrs. To the wife of the Kebbi State, Mrs. Bagudu.
We do. All right. Rising cost of commodities and services is no doubt taking a huge toll on every sector of the economy. Now, the military is feeling the pinch. The Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Isiaka Oladayo Amao, is lamenting over aviation fuel scarcity in the country. Air Marshal Mao said if the situation persists, it could adversely affect NAF air operations in the country. Meanwhile, as we are battling with the challenges, bandits are smiling to the bank. A committee set up by the Zamfara state government to review activities of bandits said terrorists collected more than 3 billion naira in ransom from more than 3,672 abducted victims between 2011 and 2019. In its report handed over to the governor, a committee headed by a retired inspector, Muhammad Abubakar, said apart from the ransom collected, about 190,340 people were displaced by the terrorists, while 4,983 women were widowed and 25,000 children were orphaned within this same period. How scary is this, Mr. Adwali?
This is scary, but not unexpected. I'm almost sure that the figure we are getting underestimates the real situation, because a lot of people pay ransom without, just quietly. You know, they don't want to be known, they don't want to be heard. And then the question you ask yourself, billions of funds, the money is not coming back to the economy. It's going away into the economy and being invested in arms. Once they get these funds, the next thing to do is they buy more arms to terrorize. So it has become an industry, a very profitable industry for, you know, a set of people. And I think this should really make us to sit up, to realize that we are sitting on a keg of gunpowder if something is not drawn drastically. And if you look at what is happening, instead of subsiding, terrorism is spreading its wings almost 360 degrees across the country. Even societies that hitherto were known for peaceful coexistence are now having their own taste of terrorism. So I think it calls for worry, and I hope that the government will not just push aside this report. They should sit down, analyze it, and see practical steps they need to take in order to be able to tackle this problem before it becomes a national menace, whereby Nigeria will not be able to tackle it any longer. If you look at what is happening in Syria for almost 5 years, even with the backing of Russians, Syria has not been able to defeat terrorism. So what is happening now is that terrorism is becoming a very huge industry in Nigeria. And if we don't act on time, you know, we may all be consumed by this menace.
All right, BKO, one of the recommendations by Air Marshal Amao for the federal government to grant NAF operational licenses and provide the necessary infrastructure to independently import fuel by the first quarter of 2023. How feasible is this?
We agree that since we are at war as a nation, there is an urgent need for us to find a way to solve this problem. At a time when aviation fuel was even selling in the region, was being sold in the region of 200 something naira per liter. We were spending a month fuel our warplanes because they have to, especially the surveillance aircraft, is on air for hours, combing area and looking for movements, but can immediately alert the fighter planes to go and the terrorists present. So if we were spending 10 million a month on buying aviation fuel for our, how much are we going to be spending at this time? The Chief of Air Staff noted that in the budget of the Nigerian Air Force for the 360 naira per liter was quoted for aviation fuel. But today, aviation fuel is being sold naira per liter. That is even when you are able to lay your hands on it. The suggestion that the service should be given license to import is meant to reduce the cost of procuring aviation. Middlemen are involved, and of course, they have to make profits, and they will be happy to make as much profit as possible. But if it is the Air Force bringing in aviation fuel by itself, the belief is that it is not profit-driven. It's just meant to. It's just meant for the war. War is very expensive, and air fleets are expensive to maintain. You have to buy the spares. These things are denominated in foreign currency. Now, aviation fuel has become extremely expensive. Even for domestic airlines, it constitutes about 70% of their operational costs. So I understand clearly where the Air Force chief is coming from, and credit to the Air Force. In the last couple of months, they've ramped up attacks on bases of bandits, bases of Boko Haram terrorists, and we are already getting results, especially in the Northeast, where we now have relative peace. The kind of attacks on our troops that we used to get have literally fizzled out. When was the last time that we had that Boko Haram attacked an army base and dislodged our troops? It's thanks to the work that is being done over there and the successes being recorded. So we don't want some form of a let-up. We don't want the armed forces to take their eyes off the ball. We want the momentum to be sustained. But how can you sustain the momentum in a season of scarce aviation fuel, and where it is available, it is extremely expensive? So we are in a terrible situation as a country. Diesel too is already very expensive at this time. Some of the trucks that the army uses are being fed with diesel. So this whole high cost of diesel, high cost of aviation fuel is affecting our war efforts. It has taken the Chief of Air Staff to tell us, but we know that definitely it will affect our war efforts. If we were buying diesel at 255 naira per liter in March, and today it has crossed 750 naira per liter, of course you can imagine the impact that will have on our war efforts. The cost of the war itself will go up. And of course, these guys are working based on their approved budget. How do they survive? How do they continue to ramp up the war efforts? The only way to do that is to scale down their war efforts, and we don't want them to scale down their attacks on the enemy, because we're already receiving some good news, even in the Northwest. Some of them are now begging that they want to surrender. They will stop. They don't want to kill people anymore. People like Tuji are offering to make peace. They usually offer to make peace when they are feeling the heat. But if, as a result of the expensive nature of aviation fuel, we now have to reduce the number of sorties that we carry out on a given day, of course, this will provide opportunity for the enemy to escape or to even expand their notoriety in the areas where they are already running rampant. So it's a terrible thing, but I think also that technology can help us reduce this impact, because we now have drones, solar-powered drones, unmanned area vehicles being used in some countries of the world. So these solar-powered unmanned area vehicles are designed to take out the enemy, and they don't need, they are not fed with aviation fuel, but they still deliver the same kind of results that the Tucanos of this world, the ground attack helicopters of this world will give us. So we need, the Chief of Air Staff said that they want to buy more attack planes. So I'll be happy to see them buy unmanned area vehicles that are solar powered, and some of them can even stay on air for up to a month, one whole month, staying on air, simply combing the whole area and looking for areas, looking for the enemy wherever their camps are. So we have to look inwards. We have to find a way to solve the problem of aviation fuel. It's already putting even the aviation sector in serious danger. If we don't do something about it, a good number of the airlines that we have, the domestic airlines that we have operating in our country, will go under. More and more Nigerians are even refusing to fly because it's already very, very expensive. You can imagine paying 155,000 for a trip from Lagos to Kano. That's just too expensive. Not many people can cope with that.
All right. All right, thank you, Bikio. All right, gentlemen, now before we move on, let's quickly take some updates from the collapsed building in Lekki. Our senior correspondent, Adedoja Salam Adeni, is standing by to give us some updates. Hello, Adedoja. All right, so can you bring us up to date with what is currently happening where you are?
The building collapsed in Lagos State here on Oba Oniru Street in Lekki, precisely. Another 7-story building caved in this morning at about 3 a.m. And since then, emergency responders have been here trying to rescue victims. 2 confirmed dead, 4 others were said to have still been trapped in this building. The building is at second level. We were told before now that most of the workers, mainly their workers here, that actually got trapped, 6 of them in the 7-story building that is under construction. And we were told that they were at the third level working, but they've come now. The 2 others, they first recovered 2 men, were brought out dead on the 3rd floor, but now the rescue operation is at the 2nd floor, and then no one has been seen live or dead. But the new thing now is that we're able to speak with the Commissioner for Physical Planning and Urban Development, and Idris Salako said, and I quote now, he said that he's talking about the developer of this structure that caved in today. He said his attitude has been that of hostility. The government would investigate and the law would take its course. He is an hostile developer that drops names anytime officials visit. And he said this building has been sealed 3 times, and he kept breaking the law. And if you look at this, this wall here, if my camera can zoom into that wall, it says sealed on 18th of February 2021. That is by LAPSCA, Lagos State Building Control. I've already sealed this structure last year when it began, when they started building it. So the building, we were told, started last year, and then that they also saw that it is unsafe, and they came in to seal it. But since then, as Mr. Salako just said, that the developer kept on dropping names, and 3 times that they have come to seal the building, he kept on breaking the seal. So, and that is the situation until it kept in this morning, killing 2 people, others condition yet unknown, whether they're alive or they have died. No one can ascertain that. But the rescue operation is on. Members of emergency management agencies are here, NEMA, LASEMA, Red Cross, ambulances on standby, security agencies, no obstruction, everywhere is free. There is access road for emergency responders to come in, unlike what we used to have in Lagos State, whereby getting into incident like this used to be an Herculean task, but the roads are free now. But this is one building too many in Lagos State. After the Lagos State government inaugurated the certificate of fitness, the certificate of completion and fitness for habitation, and this is coming up again. That was inaugurated in October last year. And after that, the Gerard Road incident that killed about 50 people also happened. Panels were set up. Some people are still facing the consequences. So the question is that what is going to happen to this developer that they said kept on dropping names? We asked the commissioner, what is the name of this developer in question? He told us that the police will be revealing his identity. So we are yet to know the exact developer that actually, I don't want to say that broke this law, because this is a law of Lagos State, and that broke the law and kept on taking the building to the 7th floor until it killed people. And I know that the Lagos State government will not take this with kid love, will not take it lightly. Of course, as we were told and confirmed, that the person will be brought to law. Now, the laws of Lagos State also state that, that is the physical planning laws of Lagos State, also state that any building, owners of buildings like this, the buildings will be forfeited. That is under the Lagos State physical planning law. The buildings will be forfeited after such things happen, and we are waiting for that to happen, really.
All right, thank you very much for that update, and well done. All right, back to the studio. Quite worrisome. We continue to have collapsed building in Lagos.
It's just unfortunate, but from the reports, it's obvious what we've known over the years: impunity on the part of builders, even officials of government not doing the right thing, and most often than not, that is what comes out of it. If you remember, just as you rightly said, remember the house, the building that collapsed at Ikoyi some months back, that also killed the developer. That investigation, the report was published some time ago, and we have series and series of the question you ask yourself: when the man or the contractor continues to break the law, breaking the seal and the rest of them, what did officials of government do? That is it. That's the question you ask. What did they do? Dropping names. Whose name? The governor of Lagos State? Of course, if you're going to drop anybody, anything beyond the governor of Lagos State, I don't know which other name he's going to drop that will make him look so immune to be this kind of impunity. But I hope that something will be done, and the gentleman will be brought to book as quickly as possible.
Adewale, quickly.
Yeah, it's impunity is corruption, and it has led to the loss of lives again. 2 people are dead. Over and over, people just do nothing and we move on. But I think it's right time, that people, justice must be done. The person who constructed that building, they should seize his certificate and ensure that, it's not allowed to practice any longer. The government officials are supposed to give approval. They are human beings, they are not ghosts. Who are they? So I think the government should take this serious and do something meaningful.
Thank you very much. The petroleum sector in Nigeria is living up to its billing as a den of corruption. More cans of worms are about to be opened as the House of Representatives has launched an investigation to ascertain the actual amount of money being spent on fuel subsidy in the country. The lower legislative chamber is alarmed by claims by the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, that the federal government will spend 6.7 trillion naira on subsidy in 2023. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Customs Service has questioned the claim by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company, NNPC, that the country consumes 60 million litres of petrol daily. During a session with the House of Representatives Committee on Finance, the Controller General of Customs, Hamid Ali, said if the company puts daily consumption of petrol at 60 million litres, why does it allow 98 million litres to be lifted daily? Huge question. Mr. Chris.
Very big question. And some of us have been saying this for years, that the figures being peddled by NNPC is not true. Because if you, just as the CG said, if you say the daily consumption is about 60 million and 98 million is leaving depots daily. So what's the essence? Let us even assume that is 60, as we said. What of the essence? What happens? And you mentioned that essence about 38 million, we will need about 500 trucks to be able to lift that on a daily basis. Where were they lifting it from? Where were they taking them to? And that, then why you know, it's very, very funny the way we act in this country. When somebody come up and start branding figures around, you ask certain questions. You say on a daily basis, for goodness sake, you and I know that we don't fill our cars on a daily basis. I, for instance, I know that on Sundays, I fill up my tank, and that will take me through the week. At least if I'm within Lagos, if I'm traveling, I cannot refill. That also happens to everybody. So I'm out of the equation, so I'm not buying daily again. So same thing with my brother, and I'm sure it's the same thing with you, with everybody. So are you telling us that, so for those that are not buying, the only people that you know that buy fuel on a daily basis are those running interstate services? Because if we are moving from here to Ibadan to any other part of the country, so for you to be telling us that this is the amount that we say is, and secondly, the same figures were being branded during the COVID period. During COVID, for weeks, Nigerians were at home. We were not moving, no vehicle, no nothing. The same NNPC was still giving that same figure. Then that means that something is wrong. So I am happy that it's even coming from a high quarter like the CG of Customs. The other day, the GMD of NNPC was saying, oil theft, we are finding them in churches where they have been siphoned, at a mosque and the rest of them. But he has not come out to give us categorically the reasons why we are having this excess. Where are these excess going to? And I think it's the high time, which is why most of them have said that our graft agencies are not doing what they're supposed to do. Sincerely, the graft agencies are not. Today, it was reported, although it has been denied by them, that EFCC went to officials, which they've denied, had some issues with a Nollywood actress, and she was beaten and blah, blah, blah. And I continue to ask, is that the World Cup EFCC? Why can't EFCC move into a sector like this? If EFCC move into the oil and gas sector, what we are talking now is not what we'll be talking about. But these guys are just doing whatever. This is an agency that have not been remitting money to the federal coffers for years. They are just behaving the way they are. So let us see. But my problem is, despite all the probe or no probe, at the end of it, so you still realize that this will lead to nothing. There have been several probes in the past by the House of Representatives, by the Senate, and the likes. At the end of it, my sister, let me ask you, where are the reports of those probes? Have them been implemented? That is the issue. All right,
BKO, truly, would this committee or this investigation lead to nothing? Okay. Are you there, BKO? All right. Mr. Chris just said that this investigation will definitely lead to nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, I do not think Vicky can hear us. We'll fix that. But then, Mr. Adoye.
Well, I think the National Assembly is empowered by Section 88 to probe any suspicious industry. But unfortunately, this probe has become a ritual. It has become a festival since the year 2002. a year before the end of President Olusegun Obasanjo's regime. I remember as at that time, the National Assembly set up a committee, and somebody came from customs at that time, Deputy Controller General, I still remember the name, Julius Ndubuisi, and he said the Ministry of Finance gave them order that they should not document import of petroleum products in order to make sure that they could come in easily. And it was sending the signal that this was the very bad thing, and that if we allow this to happen, it will lead to a lot of complications for the oil industry. And don't forget that in 2012, the Presidential Committee on Fuel Subsidy indicted, I think, about 21 firms, corruption, all sorts of things, they were indicted. And even now, just about 2 weeks ago, this hardcore committee, the House of the National Assembly, is talking about 23 companies that they cannot even trace who owns them. So you could see that the oil industry is a can of worms. In 2012, if you see how big the report was, a lot of recommendations made by the National Assembly, how they were going to deal with corruption in the oil industry. What has happened to that report? There was even a time that a member of that hardcore committee was indicted of collecting $600,000 as bribe. Nothing happened. So I think what I just saying is the kind of they are just trying to masturbate the ego of Nigerians to give the impression that something is being done. Committees have been set up since 2002, 2003, up till now. Nothing has happened. And then you are setting up another committee again. It's a waste of resources. If they cannot go back to the earlier reports, dust those reports up, and so the fact is that our lawmakers have interpreted the crisis and contradictions within the oil industry. The point now is to do something decisive, not just setting up another problem. We have enough reports to guide us on the step that we need to take in order to sanitize the oil industry.
All right, BKO, if you can hear me, many Nigerians, including Mr. Adewale and Mr. Chris, have said this particular investigation may be a charade and a waste of resources. All right, we still have some issue there. Okay, now, where is this corruption coming from?
From different sectors. From the customs, Ministry of Finance, from NNPC, and name it. And to be a bit fair to the National Assembly also, it's part of the oversight function to do what they are doing. But don't also forget that they cannot implement and bring the people that were indicted to book. It is the work of the executive. So if after the investigation, they pass on the report to the executive, which is supposed to get these people, that brings me back, he was talking about it. You've forgotten that we had a power probe some years back that Elumelu was the chairman. I remember what happened to that report. At a point, it became so controversial, and we didn't know. That was a report during the, I think, the Good Luck or Bossa. That report today, I've not seen it. The one of the editors, you've forgotten the off the mic that we had. Oh, minister off the mic. And people were fainting and rising and fainting at the National Assembly. Where is the report today? So you can see why some of us, especially those of us in the media, feel that this is just, what they're just doing is just moving around in visual circles at the end of it all. The government know what is happening. Our security agents know what is happening. The DSS, the civil defense, come to think of it as well. Civil defense is given the responsibility of manning the pipelines. At least they have that primary responsibilities. Do you know how much Nigeria is losing on a daily basis on oil theft? Recently, we just heard of a ship loaded with about 3 million or how many? 3 million of crude oil that was stolen from Nigeria that was intercepted at Equatorial Guinea. From here. And somebody is telling us, will they take a ship or book to a church? Those are not what we're talking about. The government know what is being done. Now a contract is being given to someone like Polo to be able to man our pipelines. Even at that, some people are already kicking. Even within the Niger Delta, already they are fighting themselves. Yes. I heard somebody, he can man the ones within his own. This one that our own, nothing. It is, we have to look at the problem holistic. And I will continue to say it. The box falls on the table of the chief executive of Nigeria. And who is it?
The president.
President. You cannot run your private company like this. If you run a company like the way you run in Nigeria, it will die. You don't just do that. The president should be able to call the security agencies. Give me the names of those that they have. The security agencies cannot tell us they don't know. After all, they are saying that they're going to name some people. The same thing within our security architecture. Some people were said, the government came out through the Minister of the Secretary, the SSG, the Minister of Information and the rest of them, that they know those that were financing terrorism in Nigeria. And they are going to name them. How many of them have been named? In UAE, Dubai, about 4 or 5, 6, 7 people were identified as financiers of terrorism in Nigeria. What did they do? Within 2 weeks, they got them arrested, tried them, jailed them. Even the ones that we have arrested here for terrorism, Boko Haram and the rest of them, how many of them have been put to trial? So you could see that there are a lot of impunity, there are a lot of it, and this wasn't part of what the government promised us in 2015. One of the reasons why President Muhammadu Buhari was elected was because he told us that he will fight terrorism, he will fight insecurity, and we believe in why? Because he was a retired general. But what are we saying? So the issue as it is presently is that why the House of Representatives can do all the probe and the rest of them, even those involved will be laughing because they don't know what will come out of it. Until we're able to hold some people accountable and use them as scapegoats, this will continue.
All right, BKO, let's have your reaction.
You know, I'm really impressed with the honesty of the Comptroller General of Customs. He's always been an incorruptible man, a very straightforward man. And we said what some of us have said repeatedly. He said it without mincing words. You recall that on this program, we had complained about not just the subsidy bill, but the NNPC's claim that we consume up to 101 million liters a day. The Senate president also said he could not believe that figure. The Minister of State for Petroleum Resources also said he could not believe that figure. And these people, we have them on tape, we have them on record. We discussed this issue. But in our country, people simply don't like the truth. And nothing serious has been done about this clear hemorrhaging of the resources of our country in the name of subsidy. The National Assembly shouldn't have allowed a situation in which the NNPC took it upon itself to determine how much it took from crude oil sales in the name of subsidy payment. Even when no money was appropriated for subsidy payment, because we were deceiving ourselves that we were not, that the subsidy regime had ended. Remember, the former Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Kachiku, refused to call subsidy by its name. He was calling it under recovery and also other ridiculous names. But subsidy was alive and well, and today it's still alive. Now, we need to look at the pertinent questions that Colonel Ahmed Ali asked. And the NNPC needs to provide answers to that question. He said, if by their own computation, we were consuming 60 million liters a day, why were they releasing 98 million liters? And then he asked the question, where does the remaining 38 million liters go? According to him, 38 million liters approximates to 500 trailers 500 tankers. Which road do they pass through? How come they are not cited? So he refused to believe the story that we've been told over the years that this thing, the rest of the petrol that they say we consume go into smuggling. Colonel Ahmed Ali does not believe that it's possible to smuggle that much. 500 trucks, 500 tankers every day to smuggle it outside our country. He's not convinced that that can happen, and he's asking which roads are they passing through. And to smuggle 500 trucks every day. That was why he said NNPC cannot scientifically prove that we even consume 60 million liters a day, not to talk of the 98 million that we've been told over the years. So if the minister that supervises the ministry does not believe that figure, if the number 3 man in the country, the Senate president, does not believe that figure, why should I, an ordinary Nigerian, believe? Can they provide evidence of loading of these trucks? So it's like subsidy has been used to fleece our country over the years, and we have not stopped fleecing our country through the instrumentality of subsidy. At some point, an end has to be put to the nonsense that is going on, because to set aside 6.7 trillion or so for subsidy is not what I imagine could ever happen. During the Jonathan years, subsidy payment was not even up to, in a year, was not up to 500 billion naira. Now we've gone from less than 500 billion naira to 6.7 trillion. It's amazing. It's something that should bother every right-thinking Nigerian, because we need money for infrastructure. Some of the money going into this bottomless pit called subsidy can actually be used to build critical infrastructure, can be used to develop our federal institutions, especially the universities. So the universities do not even have tarred roads. They don't have.
All right. Mr. Deye, with all of this in unregulated internal corruption, how can we sanitize the oil sector?
Well, I think the first thing is to get it right in terms of which institution, why the National Assembly has the right to, but we also know that members of the National Assembly are politically and economically exposed. So for me, I would suggest an independent judicial inquiry that will be made up of some credible Nigerians, where people will come and, submit reports. We have a lot of people retired judges that Nigerians have some high level of confidence in them. Then also, it's also important that it's right time for us to have a substantial minister of petroleum. For now, it's the president that combines that function. I mean, it's going to overburden him. Let him, shield this responsibility to another person. Whether we are going to update Silva from Minister of State of Petroleum to substantial minister, so that somebody will be held responsible for what is going on. But I can tell you that petroleum industry, until we begin to refine industries at home, petroleum at home, until we ensure that, there is greater stakeholding of oil producing communities in the management and control of petroleum, this industry is going to become a kind of, a kind of room for people to just, pile up money, public money into their private pockets. Nothing will change unless there is political will on the part of those in power. I don't see that now. He mentioned the FCC, right? The FCC will even be better than the National Assembly, my own opinion, because they are a little bit independent from the political class, even though they are not totally immune from political manipulation. So let's have a situation where the FCC, for instance, can go into your industry. And let us wait for, maybe we are going to have a different report. But when you have the National Assembly since 2002, probing, there's no hope that the outcome of this current probe will be different from what we have had in the past.
All right, Mr. Chris.
Yes, unfortunately, we thought that by the passage of the PIA, that the problem within the oil sector will be solved. But from what we are seeing, we're back to what we're used to. And as rightly said, and I will also aligned with that, is we need to do the needful. And what are the needful? Until we start producing our petroleum in Nigeria, we'll have this issue. Until we stop depending on importation, there are some people benefiting from this importation. And that is why they don't want the refineries to work. Do you know how much is being pumped into the Nigerian refineries, the one in Warri, the one in Port Harcourt, and the one in Kaduna on a yearly basis for turnaround maintenance? And not a single drop of oil, petrol has been refined in any of this thing. And that's what I'm talking about, EFCC. You continue pumping millions and millions of dollars for turnaround maintenance. And nothing is being done. So until we do the right footing, this government, when coming in 2015, promised that they're going to set up refineries, new refineries. Till now, you just have barely about 8 months to go. There's none. So it is a very big problem. We have a big elephant in the house. And it's like we don't have anything to do about it. But my own personal opinion is that this so-called subsidy or no subsidy is fraud. It's fraudulent. And remember in 2014, before the election, the president himself said there's nothing like subsidy. He said it at Chatham House in London when he was being interviewed. He said anybody that can prove that subsidy in Nigeria should come and prove it to him. Now, he has backed subsidy. And from, like Jide rightly said, from about 500 billion to about 6 point, how many trillion now?
7 trillion.
They are in deep trouble. In a situation where we are borrowing to service our budget. We are borrowing to service our, most of the debts, we are not even servicing the debt. What we are even servicing now are the interest on the debt. And it's keep on piling on a daily basis. And I continue to ask, do we have an economic team in this government? Do we have an economic team in this government that can take out of the box? We know there are problems everywhere. We know the problem in Ukraine. We know the problem between Russia and Ukraine and the rest of them that have been able to put a kind of span in the works. But that notwithstanding, countries are moving ahead. Why can't Nigeria do the same?
All right, BK, let me have your final take on this issue.
I think that there is a massive corruption going on in the oil industry. Even when we are told that we are losing 100,000 barrels daily to oil thieves. We've seen the chief of naval staff come out to say he disagrees. All kinds of looting are going on. And the worst that we can do to ourselves is to take foreign loan to pay for subsidy that we are not even convinced that it is not just an opportunity for some people to line their pockets, become rich at the expense of the rest of us. So the daily consumption figure of NNPC needs to be investigated. Even the DPR that is in charge of monitoring the filling stations in our country does not agree with the figure, the consumption level that the NNPC claims that is what we consume every day. DPR, their own figures are different. The Minister of State does not believe. The Senate President does not believe. So isn't it time for us to set up a proper probe to determine how much we consume on a given day rather than somebody just imagining that we are consuming 60 million liters a day and then proceeds to allocate 98 million liters. How can you say that, yes, the consumption rate is 60 million, and then you went ahead to allocate 98 to who? The remainder, where is it going? It's just not, it leaves so much to be desired. It raises fundamental questions. And that's why you've seen that from the day Hamid Ali made his submission, there has not been any concrete response to him. At least somebody should have stood up now to shut Hamid Ali up with facts. But the facts are clearly not there. What is the rate of purchase of vehicles in our country at a time when there was even greater prosperity? When Nigeria was listed among the 3 fastest growing economies in the world, we did not consume this level of petrol. Are we now being told that more people are buying cars now in a season of economic depreciation than when we had prosperity, when things were a lot better economy-wise? Are we saying, is that what the licensing office, where new vehicles are registered, is that what we are hearing from there? Are those ones saying that we are now buying more vehicles to the point that someone can say rate of consumption is greater now than 2015? I mean, there are questions to answer. But there are people in our country who believe that nobody can touch them, that they believe that they are not accountable to anyone. So I won't be surprised if at the end of the day, nothing happens. Subsidy is a massive scam in our country. On the day this scam comes to an end, I'm going to throw a party.
Thank you very much, Pikio.
Invite me to the party.
All right, before we move on, gentlemen, let's quickly take a break. I'll be back here for more discussion.
One of the consequences of insecurity in Nigeria is the rise in cases of missing children.
Stays for about 143 days in the camp. In fact, he's among the 3 persons left behind.
Equally worrying are the attacks on schools and kidnapping of school children.
The first known kidnapping of school children in Nigeria took place in 2014 when 276 girls were taken from the government secondary school in Chibok, Borno State.
Among the 1,440 persons taken by gunmen since December 2020 are 6 school children who are still being held in captivity for more than 427 days.
Those whose children, loved ones have been in captivity, I'm saying it's a tragedy. It's not only a national tragedy, but I think it's a continental tragedy.
In this documentary, Sifonasian takes a look at kidnapping of school children and those still in captivity. That's on Sunday Specials, where great stories live.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. We have been hanging out with Adewale Adeoye, Chris, Kende, Wando, and Bikeo. All right, let's quickly discuss education. It is sad to note that negative developmental indices in Nigeria continue to rise, while the positive ones keep nosediving. The United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization said Nigeria now has about 20 million out-of-school children. According to the latest global data on out-of-school children by UNESCO, there are 244 million children and youths between the ages of 6 and 18 out of school worldwide, but India, Nigeria and Pakistan having the highest figure. How did we get here, Mr. Chris?
Well, I want to add that we should also add the university students that are at home for over 6-7 months are part of that figure, or it should, I expect to have increased because we are talking of children, but our youth has also been out of school for close to 6 months now, so they should be added. I don't even believe that figure is right. It should be more than that because that is just what they are captured. But how do we get here? Every year, irrespective of the fact that we're having dwindling fortune when it comes to economy and what we are, the World Health Organization has a standard and UNICEF have a standard as a percentage to be allocated for education and health. Go and check in the last 20 years whether Nigeria has ever met that. We have not come anything close to it. So what do you expect? Then recently, with the issue of the Amajaris in the north, the former president tried to come into terms by establishing certain schooling within the northern area to be able to cater for most of the students that are out of school. But after he left office, that was also cancelled. I was in Bauchi State some years, about 2-3 years ago, and most of these kids you are seeing on the screen here were what I saw in the north. No part of the north, Kanu, Kaduna, Katsina, Bauchi, name it, everywhere. Children of this, you just see them in the morning. In fact, it got to a point that I wanted to make an attempt. Somebody just won, I shouldn't. I wanted to buy some loaves of bread to just give. By the time I bought about 5 and tried to give her, if you see the way they converge on that food and the rest of them. And I continue to ask, what are the government, this government, the state government in this northern part of the country, what are doing about this? What are they doing about education? You continue to see the decline in the area of enrollment into primary schools and secondary school. Look at the WAEC result and see what is coming from the north. Except for 1 or 2 states in the north that is doing very, very well. The other states don't seem to be clear. And I continue to ask, because some of these children are just, they are time bombs. That is why it is very easy for all these terrorists and the rest of them to recruit them and use them. Because, as we say, an idle hand is the devil's workshop. So, but we can still do more. A country that refuses to invest in education is doomed. And it's so surprising to me that India, I was shocked to see India in that bracket, because I know that India as a nation invests so much in education. But whether they are getting it right or not is the problem. Every other country, I was looking at the statistics over the yesterday or so. If you see what countries like Rwanda and smaller nations in Africa are doing in terms of education, at a point, I realized that a country like Rwanda has close to about 70 to 80% literacy rates compared to Nigeria. And you're asking if such countries should be having that, what's happening? And the most unfortunate part of it is that most of our leaders today were people that benefited from free education. And you expect that they know better and know the importance of education, but they're not doing that. Today, the federal government is asking students to go and beg ASU to resume. The Minister of Education is asking students to sue ASU for not resuming. Then you can just ask yourself, what is the mindset of our leader? It's quite unfortunate.
All right, Biko, now let me corroborate Chris's stance. Out of 17 states in the country with the highest number of out-of-school children, 14 are in the north. Can we totally blame insecurity for this?
It's obvious. The insecurity, the problem of insecurity in our country is largely felt in the north. Look at the southwest. The southwest is the most secure geopolitical zone in our country. When the Americans issue their periodic travel advisory, they don't tell people not to go to the southwest because of geopolitical zone in our country. You look at the states of the Northwest, there are 7 states. Out of the 7, is only Kano and to a little extent Jigawa State that you can say are safe. The rest of them are facing serious problems of banditry. That's already 5 states. Talking about the North Central, there is no state in the North Central today that you can actually say is safe. Kwara used to be safe to an extent, but we are seeing the incursion of terrorists and kidnappers now into Kwara State, where schools are deemed insecure. Definitely, people will be reluctant to go to school, to send their children to school. Children must feel comfortable, must feel safe to go to school and return home safely. But between December 2020 and now, 11,000 schools have been shut, largely in the northwest of our country and in the northeast. Why? Because governments have picked up valuable lessons from what happened in 2014, April 2014, when Boko Haram invaded Chibok and made away with more than 200 students. You've seen students kidnapped in Zamfara. You've seen students kidnapped in Katsina. You've seen students kidnapped, even university students kidnapped in Kaduna. So how will people feel comfortable to send their children to schools? A lot of the schools in the rural areas have even been shut because government cannot guarantee the security of students in those schools. A lot of the schools in Borno State have been shut and the students have been moved to the state capital. The federal government gets college in an extreme end of the state, was moved to the state capital. They didn't want to lose the Unity School, so they moved them to, that's Monguno, they moved them to the state capital. So more and more students are being targeted, not just by Boko Haram, but by bandits. So parents are worried. They don't want to send those children to school where they will eventually be kidnapped. So it has worsened. You can see in the past, we were dealing with 13.5 million out of school children. But by May this year, UNICEF told us that that figure had risen to 18.5 million. Today, we are being told that it's actually now 20 million. So apart from the insecurity in the north that worsens things, even down south, the cost of education is difficult for many parents to bear. Government has to help them to pay WAEC fees, pay for JAM, and for a lot of these students, once they pass through primary school, there won't be money for them to even take a step further to secondary school. A lot of them stop after primary school. Some stop after secondary school because parents can't afford the fees. So it's being suggested that, look, make education free at certain levels so that people can take advantage of that. But in a season in which we cannot even fund our public tertiary institutions, and we are creating new ones, how do you convince government to stop taking tuition fees even for for secondary schools? How do you convince government? It's such a difficult thing, but this is a problem that we have to address. Even in Lagos State, they have this problem. You must build more schools. to take care of the teeming population of our people who want to go to school and make the environment conducive. Dilapidated structures, make them better so that students will enjoy going to school. The environment has to be, it does not encourage enrollment. They must come up with incentives that will help us improve the enrollment figure and get more and more of these children off the streets.
The figure is coming from not a political organization, it's coming from one of the most reputable institutions in the world. So like Babajide said, we were even talking of 10 million until UNICEF came with 18.5 million. But UNESCO is telling us that they are using, for the first time, multiple sources to arrive at this figure. So it is almost 90% accurate. And we are being classed in the same category with Pakistan, you know, with Congo in Africa, Ethiopia. If you look at Ethiopia and Congo, they have one kind of crisis, you know, more or less at a state of war. In fact, Congo has been in a state of perpetual war, where Eritrea for the past 3 years has been fighting Tigray, you know. So we don't think we have war in our country, though there's terrorism. But we are being put in the same category with, you know, these other countries. And if you look at it very well, we need to look for practical solutions. And I think one of those solutions is that we need to return back to public schools, because that is the only way children from poor homes can have access to education. We should learn from what our leaders did in the past. The essence of public schools is to ensure that children from all classes, all backgrounds, we share ideas together, live together for at least about 6 years. So if you are, your father is a commissioner or prime minister, you see somebody's father is a hunter who comes to school without shoes, you begin to learn about what poverty is all about. So in future, if you end up becoming a state governor as the son of a minister, you appreciate what poverty is all about. But we have killed that system. We now have a system whereby children of the rich will go to private school from primary school, secondary school, university, up to university abroad, and come back to run the affairs of the state. So they don't appreciate the problems the people are going through. What did Awolowo do in 1952? He introduced free and compulsory education. They could not fund it. What did they do? They introduced what they call salt tax, because everybody must eat salt. And between 1952 and 1954, with 400,000 students, they were able to kickstart free education. So when you are talking about Southwest is stable, is developed, it is that foundation that was laid. I will spend just 8 years. But today, everybody is talking about it. He left power when it was almost about 50 years. So we need to go back to public education, public schools. Then priority in terms of how our government spends money. You have a state with 300 traditional rulers. When you come to power, the first thing is that you buy cars for all of them, 10 million. For a traditional ruler in a community where the primary school is just looking for 1 million to buy furniture. Then members of the House of Assembly, you buy cars, 20 million for all of them. Then you have public schools that are just looking for just 1 million to buy furniture. So we need to change our priority, because what we are doing is that we are building monsters that will rise up against us in the future if we are not careful. We are building a pool where terrorists will recruit, you know, we find it very easy to recruit, you know, to endanger our lives. Once there is threat to stability anywhere, it's a threat to stability everywhere. So this problem is our problem, and we must address it in a practical and meaningful way.
All right, so Mr. Chris, talking about how expensive education is in Nigeria, what can the government actually do about this?
Well, a lot. Subsidize. We just have to learn how to subsidize. It's not just petroleum. We are spending in the wrong areas, and that is the problem. Education is key. Anybody that is coming or that is going to assure me that he will handle the education sector in Nigeria, I will vote for the person. That is if he's sincere. Why am I saying this? Let me give you a practical example. All through my secondary school in Lagos State, my parents didn't pay a dime. I went to Ojota Secondary School. From Ojota Secondary School, I went to Kebbi College. My parents never paid a dime. From there, I moved to university. I moved to Lagos State University. All my schools are schooled in Lagos. At Lagos State University, my parents never paid a dime during our time. I was in LASSO between 1986 and 1990. Apart from this, we were just paying about 100 or 98 naira or whatever. Do you know what that did to us? So many people went to school. So many of the top young men you are seeing across Nigeria now went to those free education schools. They were able to, in fact, so many that parents that couldn't afford their children to go to school had their children in the university. And what happened today? I'm here talking. If nobody tells you that I went to King's College or whatever, all those so-called colleges that were mentioned in those days, I am a proud student of Latif Jakonde. They used to call us Jakonde schools. Used to call them Jakonde schools in those days. But look at us today. With those that went to the so-called high school, all of us are in it together. And that is why someone like, we were talking about, someone like Latif Jakonde can never ever be forgotten. Because when he came into government, he realized the problem. And he knows that building all the so-called mansion and the rest of might not be able to. What did he do? He went into a situation where he built just what they called the poultry schools. We just had a zinc and had blocks, but we were learning and the teachers were there. It was made compulsory. Before then, 1979 to 80, when we started, we used to have what was called the morning and afternoon session. When I was at Nigerian College in 1979, I was attending Nigerian College. Afternoon session, there was morning, there was afternoon, there was evening session. Latif Jakonde came and abolished it and built all these schools, free schools, and people moved in and today, that is most of those that our leaders today benefited from that. They wouldn't have been what they are today if they didn't benefit from that. So many of them, you see them boasting now, I didn't have shoe, I didn't have sandal, I didn't have head cap and the rest of them. You didn't have shoe, you didn't have sandal, you didn't have leg, but you were able to go to school. What of those students now that don't also have shoes, sandal, and the rest of them, whose parents cannot be able to afford education? What are you doing to better their lives? Instead, they're starting the funds, keeping some abroad. Some that they will not even, they and their own children cannot finish. And forgetting the fact that, you know why the rich is not sleeping? Because the poor is awake. Once the poor is awake, the rich cannot sleep. So whether you like it or not, there is insecurity, there is this. You that used to think that you can move from your village before with all the routines of security, you can't go there now. It's not possible. As they touch poor man, and so they touch big man. So our government should do the needful. This is a wake-up call for us. It's 20 million today. If care is not taken, in the next 2 years, it might run into 40 million, and we continue running into this problem.
All right, Biko, your final take on this, especially becomes this is quite worrisome, majorly because it does not even look like the government is ready to invest in education.
We are unable to even meet the UNESCO recommendation in terms of the percentage of the budget that should go into education. This year, the next year's budget, we've budgeted 5%. And we see some countries do as much as 15%. You know? UNESCO expects us to be able to do between 12.5 to 15%, and we are doing 5%. It shows the level of importance that we attach to education. So if you are budgeting 5% of your budget to education, where are you going to find the funds to improve the quality of instruction in those schools, to improve even the quality of infrastructure in the schools? And there is no magic. The World Bank has given us all kinds of suggestions on how we can stop this out of school children syndrome or even reduce it. And one of the things they've told us to do is to make the environment more conducive, improve security. Goodluck Jonathan came up with the Safe School Project. How far have we gone? How safe are those schools, especially in the Northeast, the North Central, especially Niger, and Northwest? If the schools are not kept safe, there's no way we'll be able to address this problem. We have to also reduce the cost of education. Many of our leaders today were products of free education. When I was in school, we were paying 90 naira per annum. 90 naira, not 90,000, no. University of Ilorin that time. 90, and I didn't squat. I was a proud landlord. I had my room for just 90 naira in the whole year. 90 naira. People will find it unbelievable. They'll think it's a lie. But as I used to say, or as I always say, Nigeria had been very good in the past. What we want to see is for the current generation to even witness a beautiful Nigeria. And that's why we keep appealing to government to take steps that will make our country better. Ease the pain that the young people are going through. Let them feel that this is a country for them. More and more people are going out. I'm going to lose 2 staff in my department, as small as my department is. I'm going to lose 2 staff. And both of them are going abroad. You know? And the 3rd person will probably join them after about 3 months. Nobody wants to stay here. Those who can afford it will go abroad.
Thank you, Mikhail.
So the country better.
Sad reality. All right, let's move to the final lap of the program. The campaign for the 2023 elections is upon us, so efforts to ensure a hitch-free electionary process must not be spared. The presidential candidates of the All Progressives Congress APC, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, that of People's Democratic Party, PDP, Atiku Abubakar, the Labour Party, Peter Obi, and others are expected to feature in the forthcoming National Unity Polo Tournament in Kebbi, Nasarawa State. The polo tournament is expected to bring together other political gladiators, royal fathers, and captains of industry in the country. The founder and promoter of the tournament, Ahmed Wadada, explained that it is scheduled to hold from 8th to 11th of September, which will serve as a platform that will deepen understanding among the presidential candidates and their running mates. According to him, it is to ensure rancor-free campaigns for the 2023 elections. Gentlemen, you would agree that this is good for the country, good for the candidates and their supporters?
Yes, it's so good. Anything that will bring about peace, fruitful discussion, and an atmosphere of less rancor is good for the polity. And I thank those behind this, because whether you like it or not, once the embargo is lifted this month, that is when you see the real fireworks. We've not seen anything yet. So what we're just getting are just just drop. The main cocoa we start was this. So anything that will be able to be, and don't forget also that there has always been this committee that has always tried to make sure that all the presidential candidates, governorship candidates, and the rest of them sign what do we call it now? A memorandum of understanding for peace, the one that you have a former head of state, Abubakar, Salam Abubakar is in charge with Father Kuka and the rest of them, where the issue of peace will be preached and the rest of them. But this kind of tournament, that is if all of them will attend. Because it's one thing to put a tournament together, I see most of them attending. You'll be surprised that on that day, some will go to London, which has become their second home now. I do not attend. It's a good one.
Well, I think sports is a uniting. Sports have the ability to unite people. If you look at, in spite of the ethnic division in Nigeria, if Nigeria plays Ghana today, nobody wants to remember where. You see that everybody watching with us supports Nigeria. So I think sport is an instrument. It's what can be used to build bridges, to build peace and also conflict prevention. So I think we need to see more of this. Sports need to play a major role in terms of trying to unite, the political differences.
All right, BKO, your thoughts on this?
Yes, I'm happy that somebody is trying to organize a polo tournament with the desire to lessen the tension that the electoral season usually generates. We want a rancorous electioneering campaign, and this is a step in the right direction, because when the combatants use fighting words against one another, their supporters tend to take a cue from that, and we start seeing people killing one another. We don't want to see that. We don't want to see that. We want the language of the campaigns to be intemperate. We want to see the candidates lead by example and get the message across to their supporters that no vote is worth the blood of the Nigerian voter. No politician should preach hatred. No politician should call for violence of any kind. And Wadada has set the tone for this. I just hope that a good number of them will attend, and the message that the organizer wants to bring across will sink deep into their hearts. And let's have a very peaceful electioneering period.
All right. Gentlemen, joining us now for more insight on this is a former member of the House of Representatives, Ahmed Wadada, who is the founder and promoter of this tournament. Thank you very much for joining us, sir. All right, then. We'll get back to him as soon as we can. All right, gentlemen. So, like I said, when it comes there, he's going to tell us about the plan and how far he has gone. But then, looking at what is happening on social media now, I want to record what BKO said, that it's important for these political candidates to come together so their supporters can get a cue from what where they stand. Yes,
I totally agree. Even before, on a lighter mode, before we get to that, I was about to ask BKO. There's also another word this evening between our team, Man U, and Arsenal. I wanted to ask for his prediction. BKO, I want your prediction on that match before you go.
Arsenal will win, actually.
Oh, I know you're an Arsenal fan, and I'm a Man U with big. But seriously, it will. Because I've always said the time with a number that we are the problem, our own problem. These politicians, they have where they meet. They have where they meet. They have how they connect. At times, they just sit back and be laughing at us.
Especially young Nigerians.
Yeah, this is when I say, I'm talking about the young Nigerians. They'll be killing themselves over politicians that at the end of it, or they'll be people that will drink champagne among themselves, within themselves, and the rest of it. You'll be cursing yourself and disturbing yourself over somebody that doesn't even know you. I think most often than not, the youths, especially the youths, because when you talk on social media now, it's the youths, they calm down, for goodness sake. It is not a do or die affair. Although one former president said it was a do or die, it's no longer a do or die affair. We are all Nigerians. If you support an individual, what you should be doing is try to project the positive side of him that you think that other people should know, and not just to all this kind of. So I totally agree that this is a very good forum for us to be able to, maybe when they see this and see them talking together, if you see them, they go to parties, having to be seen pictures of them attending parties together, the way they hold themselves, the way they laugh, and I continue to ask.
And the children,
the children's means together. Poor man picking will just kill himself.
All right, gentlemen, we now have our guest. Welcome, Honorable Ahmed Wadada. All right, so a great initiative, I must say, but tell us about this plan and how far you've gone.
Very good evening to you and all listeners. Talking polo this evening, let me start by condoling and comforting all members of polo family in Nigeria, because we are all bereaved. We lost one of our own last evening, one of our veterans, Bashir Mohammed. We just, I just came from his funeral. I pray God forgives his excesses and rewards him for his good deeds. Talking about elections and polo, we all know where we are today. in the politics of our polity. We have never been this consciously, sentimentally conscious of our various differences. And I feel each and every member of, each and every citizen has a role to play in making the environment, the system, and in its entirety, getting the best out of it. And polo being a sport, and I also as a sport, really. Politics is a game. And in every game, before the commencement of the competition or the game, so to say, players exchange pleasantries. And after the end of the game, at the end of the game, regardless of who wins or who loses, players still exchange pleasantries. So I feel we should do something different this time. There is no hiding the fact that the political space is so highly tensed in Nigeria today. Everybody is either conscious, sentimentally conscious of his religion or her religion, his ethnic or her ethnic, his political party, this region, zones, and what have you. And for this tension to be doused, we need to do what we can. And that's why Kebbi Polo Ranch decided to hold a polo tournament with the theme National Unity Polo Tournament to bring together all the political gladiators, the presidential candidates and their running mates, our royal fathers, our religious leaders, our ministers, governors, and everybody under same environment, but talking a different thing, polo, game of kings and king of all games. So whoever wants to be a king, if you want to be a president in Nigeria, that means you are looking forward to being a king in Nigeria, because president is, synonymous to being a king. And if you are a king, you should behave like a king. You want to be a king, behave and act like a king. And for the for the average electorate, to see that all these gladiators are put under one environment, watching the game of polo, smiling, chatting, hugging, and interacting without regard to the political, their political party alliances. It sends a different message so that at the end of the day, we have a hitch-free general elections in 2023. What should matter to us today is not where the president of Nigeria comes from, or what religion that the president practices, or what political party he or she. Because if the president of the presidential candidate of People's Redemption Party, PRP, becomes the president of Nigeria, from the day he is sworn in as the president of Nigeria, he ceases to be the presidential candidate of PRP, but the president of Nigeria. And the president of Nigeria should care about the livelihood of every Nigerian, regardless of where that Nigerian comes from, regardless of the religion that Nigerian practices. So we are doing this to disabuse the minds of the people. Tell them that politics is a game. Because if you look at the literal meaning of politics, literally, is that endeavor that brings like minds together to do what they can to woo, attract, or magnetize those that are not with them to be with them for the good of the society. What are you are wrestling for power. Get the power to do what? To better the life and the livelihood of the people. So what brings about violence in that? Politics is nothing other than development. And there cannot be development without peace. And peace can only be achieved or gotten when every interest is being taken into consideration and given attention. Not all interest can be attended to or can be achieved at the same time. But if I have an interest that I need the government or I need those that are at the helm of affairs to attend to that problem. I must not put it in my mind that that problem must be instantly achieved, but if I know my interest or my quest, my yearning, my aspiration is given attention, that gives me the spirit to be patient enough to wait for the day the result will be gotten. So that's all we're trying to convey to the society.
All right.
And we have invited out of our royal fathers, the Sultan of Sokoto has obliged us to be the father of the royal father of the day. The vice president will be the special guest of honor. The first lady will be mother of the day. Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari will be father of the day. And all the presidential candidates, Vice President Atiku Abubakar has obliged us to be in attendance. Ashwaju Bola Tinubu has obliged us to be in attendance. And so Senator Konkoso, Peter Obi, Adebayo of SDP, that's my political party anyway. Let me not forget to mention that. Kola Abiola of PRP, Hamza Al-Mustafa of AA, they have all obliged to attend. That will be a very, very interesting and historic outing that will change the narrative, the narrative around and about the perception and understanding of an average electorate in Nigeria about politics. It's not about violence. Neither is it about unnecessary criticisms and being personal about it. But it is about development. All we need is a leader that has the requisite capacity, capability, and the contemporariness to understand where the world is today and where Nigeria needs to be. There cannot be any perfect situation. But when you have a leader that understands what leadership is it entails a teamwork. Leadership is a teamwork. And whoever does not understand, I say this to whoever cares to listen, whoever does not understand leadership as being a teamwork, then should look at the structure of God. God has the requisite capacity to communicate to this television screen and empowers the television screen to communicate back to him. So if that is to be, then God wouldn't have needed angels. Neither would he have needed prophets. But because he wants us to understand that leadership is a teamwork, he created angels between us and him. And then amongst us, he anointed some of us human beings to be his prophets. So if you have the right team that share and buy into your dreams, not just because Mr. A or Miss B is my relation, or comes from my religion, it comes from my ethnic group, so let he or she, no. The members of your team should have the requisite and needed capacity in all ramifications. And then, but beyond having the needed capacity in all ramifications, they should also buy into your dreams.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Wadada.
There you will have a very solid, formidable, and effective team to deliver. So,
all right, thank you very much, Honorable Wadada. You said it all. You said it all. Thank you very much for this great initiative, and we wish you the very best and good luck. Thank you very much. All right, is the founder and promoter of the forthcoming National Unity Polo Tournament, which will be taking place in Kebbi, Nasarawa State. Gentlemen, that's all we have on the show today. Bikio, thank you very much for joining us from Abuja. Thank you, Mr. Adeoye. Thank you, Mr. Chris, for coming on the show. We should head on a very high note. Thank you very much.
BK is talking.
All right, and thank you very much for watching. That's all on Journalist Hangout on Sunday. Join us tomorrow for the regular episode of the program at 5 p.m. You can watch the repeat broadcast of this episode tonight at 11:30. We are on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Bye for now and God bless Nigeria.
The TVC News at 7 and the TVC News at 10 are not like any other news broadcast.
It's the big news hour, the hour for the big breaking stories.
We've got some of the best reporters on the field,
taking you through as it happens.
It's fast-paced, hard-hitting,
with investigations that matter.
bringing in news that affects your life.
With sport, entertainment and business news so you don't miss a thing.
Experience resourceful coverage with depth
every night.
Taraba is not called nature's gift to the nation for nothing. It has several landmarks and natural endowments, serving as tourist haven. It's home to more than 40 tribes and languages that have existed for centuries. Get to know more about these resources and how Governor Darius Ishaku is harnessing them to bring greater developments to the state on Discover Taraba.
For this same country that generates 4,000 megawatts of power would not give us electricity in this country 24/7, but we can sell to other countries.
You would realize that from our life to our death is controlled by the government. I'll give you an example. You're not born until the government says that you're born. And that's why at birth they issue a birth certificate to you.